Good afternoon, everyone. So I think now we are ready to start. Welcome to our advanced session on how to do solutions journalism. This workshop is actually more like close or like smaller group. So that's why we changed for the meeting mode to enable also breakout sessions and to make you work more together. And that's why we also decided to make this session for Serbia and Bosnia and Herzegovina, because you have a very similar language, so you can talk with each other in the breakout sessions in your language, and you don't need to bother so much with English. And again, we have our dear colleagues from Serbia and Bosnia. From Bosnia, it's Anida from Media Center Sarajevo. Hi, Anida. And you are muted too.
Hi.
And we have Jelena from Novi Sad Journalism School, who will be with us the whole time as well. They will be helping you with the chat, so you are free to ask questions in your language, and they will translate it for us to answer it. And they will also visit you in the breakout sessions so that you can check about the task whenever you need to. So, but let's start then. We have again objectives for this session. We would like to look for we will like to look where you can look for the solution stories, because last time we were talking about what is solution journalism, what it isn't, and so on. This time it will be more about in-depth and more practical things to share with you. We will also analyze the story we shared with you ahead this meeting. I hope you had the chance to read it. It will be very good because you will work with it right now. And we will go more in depth about those 4 criteria we were presenting last time. And as the third and most importantly, or last but not least, we will talk about how does a good solution story pitch look like? What kind of information you should have already available when you plan to do a story and you pitch it to anyone, to your editor, to us, when you apply for the micro grant. Like what answers do you need to have to questions? Good. So over to Jeremy to kind of recap what we touched last time.
Okay, hi everyone. Good to be with you again. So we wanted to just quickly recap the 3 of the basic points about solutions journalism. I think all of you heard this hopefully in depth last time. But again, just to repeat, so solutions journalism, rigorous and evidence-based reporting on responses to social problems. So I think we went into that quite in depth last time, but there is always in solutions journalism some kind of measurement of the impact, often using data. Reporting about what's happening now and the effects it's producing. So very much focused on impact and what's happening already now, even if it's preliminary, there are some kind of results. And obviously the effects it is producing, that's the impact that you always want to tell your reader. So again, these are models that are already working to some extent, not just theories about what might be working, not just what people hope will work one day, but concretely what is actually working, even though it might be already only in the early stages. So just again, to put this kind of into the larger, I don't know, philosophy or approach of journalism, we're all used to the watchdog role, investigative journalists, other types of journalists who are keeping an eye on what the authorities are doing, what other sectors of society are doing. With solutions journalism, we're talking about a transition to also assume the role of guide dog. So it's this complete role, not only pointing out the problems, but also serving as some kind of guide to our readers, our viewers, about solutions, what's working. So the net total of both of those approaches is more of a complete look on society.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeremy. And now back to your homework from your last session. If you remember, we asked you a question at the very end of our session, and it was, what's the one story you have done or you have read that could have benefited from a solutions angle, that was actually revealing a problem, but would be actually worth investigating what comes next. So we would like to ask two or three volunteers to speak up. Please raise your hand if you want to share a story that came to your mind that would actually benefit from this, and we can discuss it. So anyone interested, or write your name to the chat if you want to. We hope we will find some volunteers brave enough to speak up. Otherwise, you just need to listen to us. Anyone? Oh, Christina is sharing. Christina, do you want to speak?
Yes, I have no problem.
Great. Would you share your point? Like, so what do you actually have
Yeah,
in mind?
yeah. So the base of my story would be women, and I was thinking about how which categories of women do suffer the most in our country, and I was searching a bit, and I've realized that Roma women are really not included in the society at all, and they have little rights too. And I found out that this NGO is really helping them to, like I said, like it's the first organization that deals with problems related to Roma women in the society and offers them help for food and other education programs, and often centers for helping often I can say like they tell them to talk to them because they are usually the ones who are actually helping. And I would like to find a woman who kind of is can explain it a bit more personally, and tell her how did that help her, and is she now like maybe in a better place. I hope
Mhm.
that it's a solution story.
And it can definitely be a solution story. So, was this problem already discussed in the society? So, is the problem well known? And was there a coverage that brought you to, okay, this is actually a thing that we know there is a problem, but we don't know what to do about it?
Well, some if you ask me if some people wrote about the organization, yes, they wrote about it. But what I want to do is to find a woman um, who was really how I can say who was really like um personally connected to the organization, and who like they said like I searched, they have a couple of volunteers. So I wanted to find some of that volunteer women, and maybe um, they can have other corner of the story, because
Hmm.
people from organization are usually telling the same things, and I would like to bring forth somebody from the real life.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, I think that's really good thinking, and this is very good start for like digging deeper into where is exactly the story, and we will definitely touch this today. Anyone else willing to share what story you read and you said, well, I would actually be very interested in what can be done about it, but nobody was writing about this. So I have Samir here. Samir, do you want to speak up? Hello, hello.
He says he doesn't have a microphone on his PC.
Ah, okay, doesn't matter. So, but Samir is sharing in the chat that a story about disability and people and obstacles in city architecture, which is definitely a very serious problem. That's well a good start. Um, And the problem is well known, but it's not in focus of local municipalities. Well, that's exactly the right moment, yeah, because we know there is a problem. The municipalities are not doing anything about it, but actually, if you come with a good example that this problem has been addressed elsewhere, you can challenge your municipality and actually remove the excuses of non-action. So that's a good thinking too. So anyone else? You don't have to. Don't worry. I'm not pushing you. Good. But thanks for sharing this, because it really shows that you took something from the last session. That's really great to see. Good. So just to remind everyone about the key four qualities of solutions journalism, I would hand over to Jeremy to wrap it up.
Okay, so hopefully these stuck in your head when we went over them last week, but if not, we want to just review them because we're going to be talking a lot about them over the next hour. And this is what the exercise, which we're all going to do, will also center on. So just to repeat then, so the four qualities. Number one, Lucy, if you could put that up there. Thanks. Yeah, so the example that was just raised about the Roma community, that's a really good one where you do want to focus on people and talk about the impact on individuals, but you want to talk about the systematic change that is going on. So definitely people are good, we all know, for getting readers grabbed by a story topic, but it's about the response, how it happened with all the details. So number two, again, as I brought up before, always you need to provide evidence, and not just obviously put in a bunch of data, but how effective the impact really has been, and getting beyond what the NGO or the organization is just saying. We heard that before. Yes, NGOs will often talk about how great they are, what they're doing. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not true. So you do want to always ask for impact, data, examples. Yes, and then this is one, it's sometimes a little bit more difficult, and you might have to take a step back and really think about what is the larger approach that we're talking about. So usually an organization or the government, whoever it is, will have a particular way to solve a problem, but usually there's some kind of fundamental insights from that solution that can help others get inspired. And that's what we also want you to do today, to kind of take a step back and what's the almost philosophy around this approach that others can take away and start to adapt in their own communities. Yeah, and then lastly, limitations. I think we hopefully stressed this enough last time, but it's always important to stress what are the limitations? What are the situations when the response might not work? There is no perfect solution that will work in any case, in every country, in every community. And again, as a way to get away from any kind of accusations of advocacy that you're only writing the positive side of a solution, always you want to mention what are the limitations. There might not be many, but there are definitely some.
Great. Cool. So we have also shared with you a few links to solution stories. We also picked some videos to show that it's not only about written stories. It applies to any genre or any format, not to any genre itself, but to any format. You can do video, you can make a multimedia story, you can make a written story, you can make a radio story, whatever. We just wanted to show that it's really rich. And if you didn't see the videos, we recommend to watch them afterwards. Just quickly stress what was this story about. This is a story by Tina Rosenberg, and it's important to say as well that it's a written story that has also a video part. The tricky part about the videos is that they are usually short, right? You are always pushed to make them as short as possible. So sometimes they are not having 100%, or they are not the ideal solution story, because it's kind of a trial, it's kind of a trailer to the story, right? But anyway, even in this video, all the 4 qualities are mentioned there. So there is the problem, which is access to fun, and where kids with special needs or special or with disabilities can actually have fun. Also, there is a problem with little interaction between kids with special needs and without them. And then this special water park is the response to this problem. It's fully inclusive, and it's for all kids. It's not for like disabled only kids. It's for all kids, where they can meet and play together. And then we have details about how it works. One of the essential details was that, well, for a water park, you need a special wheelchair that's not run by battery, otherwise it would clash with water. But they came up with a air run wheelchair, which was kind of important element of the solution. This video is not that hard on evidence. We have like evidence that shows people are going there. It's popular. More and more people are joining. There was not so much mention of hard evidence of data, but then in the story you have more space. In the written story, you have more space to actually go in depth with that. The insight, the principle, the bigger idea, and also the lesson learned is that the park of inclusion is a park for everyone. It's for people with different disabilities, or like healthy people can meet and have fun together and live together. And it's a win-win. It's a win-win situation for everyone. And then there are some limitations mentioned, maybe like the more general one about that this inclusiveness is actually not a standard in society. It's not that normal. So it is hard to replicate this, because you need to create this inclusiveness feeling in the society in order to be able to have more parks like that. There must be, like need, or there should be more need to that. Jeremy, do you have any additions to this? That was very, very quick.
No, I think you covered it well. It could be strengthened a bit. It would have been helpful to know how many people they serve, as you pointed out, each year or each day, and maybe a little bit more about the limitations, maybe about the particular groups of people that they're actually reaching. But I would really encourage everyone to watch it. This was actually, if I remember correctly, 2 years ago, the most popular New York Times video overall. So again, showing the hunger for more constructive stories, more solutions-based stories. It's very emotional. I think they do a great job, but I think overall, unlike the next video, which Lucy will talk about, which is a little more complicated, more infographics, this is a video that probably any of you could make with a video team. It's a great story. They have characters there that really drive the story. Very emotional, very touching. So really encourage all of you to watch it if you haven't so far.
Exactly. The next video, and I will not go in depth with that because we are running late again, is a video from Vox, and this is definitely like a high production. It's TV, and it's very, very rich in infographics and like visual effects and so on. But it's a very nice story about a solution for traffic in Barcelona. What to do with like car cities, and how to turn them for cities for people. So I also recommend this story to check. And when watching the stories, always have those four qualities in mind, and say, well, okay, this is piece of evidence maybe, or this is maybe the principle, the insight, the lesson for other places. Maybe this could work for Serbian cities as well, those super blocks. Or so have this always in mind when checking the story. And yes, I agree, this is very high quality production, so you don't always need to aim for like this cool type of video, like, yeah. And then we are coming to a great solution story example by Hanna Lubakova, who is joining us today. So I would actually ask Hanna to to talk and introduce
Hi,
herself.
I guess to unmute myself. Hi, Lucy. Hi, Jeremy.
Hi, and I will
Hi,
make.
Hi.
Great, wonderful.
Thanks for
Hi,
being with
Hannah.
us.
thank you. Hi, how are you guys?
Yeah, it's so great to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
Hannah made several solution stories, and this one is really great because it's about a response to domestic violence in Belarus. It's very important topic, and I believe also in the other, like in the Balkan countries, this is also a very serious problem. That's why we picked this story, because we wanted to show that there are ways what to do about this problem, even in such complicated countries like Belarus, and no doubt that this is one of the most complicated countries in Europe right now. So we are having a task for you, because we asked you to read the story. I hope you managed. There was also the Bosnian translation, and thanks to Anita who organized that. Thank you so much. It was a last minute task. We are actually having a breakout session prepared for you. So we will divide you into 5 groups, and we would like you will meet randomly in those groups, and you can speak in Bosnian and Serbian, I guess, among each other. We will come visiting you in the rooms to check whether the task is clear. And here is the task. We were and we will be talking about the 4 qualities. This is actually the mantra. This is all it is about. And then Hannah can say how much I was bothering her with this when she was doing her story, and I was trying to help her on this way.
Yes.
So, so please go to the group and discuss what are the 4 qualities that are mentioned in these stories. So how the solution works, what is the evidence it's working, what is the insight, so what is the lesson learned, and what's the principle behind it, what is the replicable model behind it. So in other words, is there something that could be taken to Serbia or Bosnia? And of course, limitations. This is also not a perfect solution. It will not magically solve the domestic violence problem in Belarus, right? So what are the limitations? What are the weak parts of it? So please discuss this. We also shared the solution story outline with you, but maybe we can post it to the chat. Jeremy, could you maybe copy paste the link from the notes to the chat so everyone can open it in front of them?
Yeah, I can do that in a second. I just also wanted to explain, in case people haven't used breakout sessions before, as Lucy said, you'll be randomly assigned and you have to click join to go into the room. And then once we're done in about 10 minutes, Lucy will close all of the rooms at once. So you need to go back to the main room, or it will automatically force you to do that after about a minute. So just so you're prepared, that's how it works. And I'll paste the link in just a moment into the chat. So if you want to open that and see the 4 quadrants, you'll be able to see that.
Yeah, this should help you to kind of navigate through your own pitch as well. So those 4 qualities, and also there is the last rectangle saying sources. So because for a story you need to talk to many people, right, to get the information. So please note who Hannah was actually talking to. Who were her sources? Who did she make interviews with, and what kind of institutions she or statistics she actually used as the information base for her story. Then we will come back to the plenary, and I will ask. So please agree among yourself. I will ask every group to have one speaker to report back. If you don't feel comfortable with speaking up, then agree among yourself, or somehow to make it comfortable for you. Um, and we will ask every group to report on one of the qualities, but please do it for all the qualities. Is it hopefully is it clear? I will now open the breakout sessions, and it will automatically move you there. I think we are back in the plenary, all of us right now. So do you have a speaker to speak up for your group? Did it work? And do you want to share your ideas? Maybe I would like to ask group 1 to share more about the hows of the story, like how does the solution work? What did you learn in the story? I would like to ask someone from group 2 to share what kind of evidence did you find in the story? I would like to ask the group number 3 to share the insights, the lessons, the replicability, what kind of principles that could be replicated in Serbia and Bosnia are in the story. What can be learned from from this Belarusian approach? And group number 4 talking about the limitations of this approach, and then group number 5 telling us what sources were there, who did they talk to. Is it okay? So can someone from group 1 speak up now?
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
So,
Hi. If you want, you can
hi.
share your video as well. If you don't want to, you are not pushed to.
Mic is enough.
Okay, good.
So my topic is solution and how it works. So from this topic about Belarus and how the violence of the women violence. So the solution is that the window sport and that women are training that and applying for to train that sport. And of course, they are through their how it works is that they explain their problems uh, as I as I read. So they explain their problems in their families, in their past, and that is when they have some kind of tactic that a trainer tells them to do and how to cope with it, and that is when they fix their problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so this is not just a traditional self-defense course, right? It's different.
Hmm.
And this is
Yeah,
what
yeah,
you
it's
are
different.
what you are looking for when you are looking for your good case study. What is this program? How is it better? How is it different? What is innovative about it? What is unique about it? Why they are not just the standards? Because there are so many self-defense courses, but this one is special because it combines also the self-confidence training, right? And women,
Yeah,
if
and
they are more
conversation.
exactly, and if they are more confident, they can prevent the attack basically, or abusive behavior, because you are confident and you actually you don't allow to go it so far, right? So that's
Defend
exactly,
your boundaries.
yeah, wonderful. Maybe I would ask Hannah to speak up here and maybe comment on each of the stories, each of the qualities if you want. Just
Oh,
share.
oh my God. Well, I didn't
Oh my
actually.
god, oh my god, oh my god, doesn't matter. But did we cover more or less the principle, the how it works?
Yeah. Okay. Well, basically, yeah. I mean, this is as you guys mentioned. So this is an assertiveness and self-defense course, and it covers kind of both of them. So it's not only focused on like one part. It covers both, and I guess this is what kind of the most important. These are both physical exercises and some kind of discussions, dialogues, role play, right? So I took part in that training myself as a journalist. So we kind of, there were several scenarios we played, and women also shared their experience, and we looked for solutions to those challenges and problems women had in their lives, like in real life. So that was super useful.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So group number 2, evidence. What kind of evidence did Hannah find actually?
The
Does
evidence
it
in
really work? Samir, hi. Does it
yes,
really? Do we know it? Isn't it just a nice course to
we
feel
have
good?
statistic data
Yeah, what
in
kind of? Hello?
the control group and the other group. So in the other group where it
I'm afraid the connection is... Samir?
working.
Oh yeah, we can't hear you, but it's breaking up. So
Oh, sorry.
let's try it. Now it's good.
Can you say it again, please?
Maybe someone else from the group, because we can't really hear you, Summer. Sorry. Oh. Or maybe. Okay.
Should-
Yeah, Hannah, please go ahead. You know the story most.
Yeah. So anyways, so evidence, right? So you mentioned statistics, and it's kind of totally right. I had to go through the academic research first, and that was probably, it might have seemed boring, like to some extent, but that was like super useful because there were researchers from Harvard and from other universities who have already proved that it's actually like this type of self-defense and assertiveness training works. That one thing. Another thing is I interviewed participants of that training, and as you guys probably noticed, I had a chance to come back to them after several months and ask them what has changed in their lives and whether anything changed. And some of those women actually said that yes, like one woman improved her relationship with her PhD advisor. So there was some qualitative, let's say, evidence, right, to this. And I interviewed independent experts as well, and I think this is also important. Like, it obviously, there were like 10 interviews, for this story. It's quite a lot, but then you kind of exhaust a topic. So there were other trainers, mentor trainers. One of them is a psychologist, and she kind of explained how it works from that side. There was this guy who is a self-defense trainer again, as well, but he trains Krav Maga, which is a kind of another type of self-defense, and he also contributed, and he also explained how it works. So this kind of type of evidence I gathered.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. Someone from group 3 sharing the insight, the lessons, or the replicability for Serbia or Bosnia?
Maybe I should do it.
Go ahead.
I don't know
yeah.
if Hilma read the story, but we talked about the replicability here because I'm from Novi Sad, and as I said, we have some centers in Novi Sad that help women who face the violence, and this story is written in a way that we can see how it works, and with that steps we can maybe replicate it here in Novi Sad, because it's we would have to adjust it because we don't have a Vendu trainers, I think, but maybe some other aspects we can take it from it, and I think that it's practical, it's well explained, the whole process and how it works and how it helps the women, and because of that the replicability is really good.
Yeah, so that's you, and you really pointed out a solution story is a cake recipe. After reading it, you should actually have a clear idea how this method is working, what you can take away from it, and also what were the aha moments of those who run it in Belarus now. Yeah, there were many like things like maybe they learned how to do it differently because they needed to adjust and so on. This is this essence of the cake recipe. And this is the bigger principle and the insight. So this must be there. It shouldn't be just a one-off story about someone doing something nice. There must be a use for your own community. So if you after reading it have a feeling that you know how to do it, then it's a good well done for Hannah, actually. Thank you for sharing, Alexandra.
You're welcome.
So someone from we need to hurry up, I know. Someone from group 4, did you find there some limitations of this approach? Is it that perfect, or are there some weak points?
Hello, I will.
Go ahead.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. From this story, I saw that problem is this way of protecting women is just one tool to protect them, and there is no law against domestic violence in Belarus. That is limitation. I think that in Serbia we have a violence protection law. It's good, but we don't have such program like this, and I haven't heard it till now for that.
Okay. Yeah. Hannah, thank you so much for sharing. And I'm really happy to see that you really discussed it in the groups. It's cool. Hannah, do you have anything to add on the limitations?
So I thought you addressed it to me. Well, I think I kind of discussed some of them in my text, but well, it depends. Like, you guys kind of have to analyze what's happening in your country and kind of adjust it to your situations, I guess, all the time anyway. So in Belarus, as someone mentioned, yes, we don't have this law, right? Also, it's very hard, I guess, to kind of prove that if you're able to defend your boundaries, like, it's gonna definitely have effects I mean, not everybody obviously experience, luckily, domestic violence. So it's kind of the whole, how the society changes, and this is kind of very difficult to prove, right? Also, there are some limitations to, I guess, the whole issue of self-defense, the kind of legal issue of that, like whether you can defend yourself and what are those situations. That might be very difficult. And I mean, not every woman also can take part in that training, because if a woman in a situation of active domestic violence, if she experiences that, it's better for her not to take part in that training, because she might feel powerless. Like, she trains and then she comes back to her abuser and it's even worse, right? But on the other hand, there were situations, and those trainers explained, like, there were women who were in the situation of active domestic violence, but they helped them in a way that they directed those women to therapists or to those, shelters or some other institutions. So yeah, I guess there are more in the text that just
Yeah, I would highlight maybe two more. I think the one about women, actually the accessibility to the course is a big limitation, right? So first, there is not enough trainers doing it properly, having been trained themselves, having the method, mastering the method, because it's sensitive. Is also a lot of psychology there, and a lot of you need experience. So not everyone from the street can just go and do Vendo classes, at least not the quality ones. And there is obviously only one person now in Belarus who is trained as a Vendo trainer. So to me, this is a huge limitation, and you need to highlight it. There is one reason why, or two reasons why it's important. It's fair to your readers, but it's also important to do something about it. Without addressing it, you wouldn't actually show there are not enough trainers. So nobody would care about it. If you name it, you open the debate about can something be done about removing this obstacle. And the second one might be that, well, if you are in an abusive relationship, your partner might not like the fact that you are trying to protect yourself, right? So the accessibility also, like, not only so there are few trainings, but also like it's hard for your life to actually do it. Good. Group number. Thank you so much, Anna. Group number 5. Please share with us what sources did Hannah talk to.
I will be the spokesperson for the group number 5 because we were communicating via emails and so on. They had I guess their task was to name the characters or the sources, and Natasha and Mladen did that very well. They have sociologists, they have girls who are attending the course, some of them who had experience with the domestic violence, trainers on the courses, the expert trainer, sociologist, and Mladen well pointed out that one of the sources was the President Alexander Lukashenko. Did I?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Because he didn't say anything. Did you, Hannah, had interview with him, or this is his statement for some other media or on another occasion?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to interview Alexander Lukashenko. No, this was his, I guess, press statement that was quoted by his press, service like some months ago. So, I mean, this is kind of a very famous one. You can find it in English as well. So,
yeah, thank you. Yeah, exactly. So you see, the pool of the sources you need to address for solution story is quite big. It's maybe bigger than for traditional story, because you are always trying to look for another perspective, for another angle, to get really an objective point of view, whatever it means. Anything to add here, Hannah?
Yeah, I think that, like I mentioned before, like there were a lot of people I had to interview, thanks to my brilliant editors from Transitions Online, who suggested that I interview more people. Yeah, I mean, it's really, really useful. Like, you cannot you can't know everything, so it only helps you. And the more people you interview, the more angles you find, the more kind of, perspectives they bring, and discussing limitations becomes, way easier when you talk to, I don't know, someone, an independent voice, right? So that's really, really cool. So you feel that kind of your topic, you are showing the full picture. Yeah, I guess that's it.
Yeah, thank you so much. So this is for the practical part right now, and I would like to now move on to the more practical tips or advice or hints. Thank you, Hannah, so much for joining us. You are welcome to stay, but you are also free to leave whenever you need to. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. So, how to actually do it? Yeah, there are a few tips we can share with you, and I might hand over to Jeremy because I was talking for too long.
Okay, thanks, Lucy, and thanks also to Anna for joining us. We're going to go through the next elements pretty quickly, so we still have time for questions. So don't worry, if something is not completely clear, you will still have some time to ask us. So just as Lucy said, some more broader tips. So number one here is identify the issue or question of concern, which might seem easy, but often it is a problem that is perhaps too huge to cover in one article. So when you're looking at a problem, you're not going to look at, say, all of environmental solutions to global warming or something like that, or air pollution or poverty. You want to take a specific part of the problem in which you're going to address, because otherwise it's too overwhelming. It won't be possible to do in a single article. Maybe a series of articles, you can cover something broader, but definitely not in one article. So that's really crucial from the beginning, to just pinpoint what exact problem are you going to deal with.
Mm-hmm. I'm always saying, a social problem is like a chocolate. It's like a chocolate bar. You need to break it down in order to be able to eat it. So break your problem and find this particular sub-problem of it. Yes.
Yeah, so again, this is the axis. You more or less looked at this now during the exercise, but it is, again, this selected solution responding to that specific problem. So did you find the exact solution according to that specific problem that you started out with? And is there really some kind of impact? Again, how do you know that? Is it data? Is it interviewing people? Again, when we looked at the water park video before, the sense that it was having impact was more from what we were hearing from the people speaking. There's a scene where the owner, creator of the water park shows all of the wheelchairs that have been left in a storeroom. That's a bit showing how many people are being served, but to know the true impact, you really want to have data and a better idea. And then stay focused on that specific solution. It's very easy to start to lose track and cover this other solution, which maybe is working better than the one you started out writing about. That could be the subject of another article, but really keep in mind specific problem, specific solution.
Yeah. And then ask yourself during the process, am I still reporting about the original problem I wanted to address in the first place? And am I still writing about that particular solution I picked in the first place? Or did it bring me somewhere else? And it is fine to change on the way, but you need to do it as a decision, not that it just happened to you and your story. Good. We were already touching this in the previous session, but it's important to ask what's missing from the public conversation, because not always it might be the best time or right time for solutions journalism. So first of all, your audience needs to know that there is a problem, because people are not interested in solutions if they don't even know there is a problem. So do people know there is a problem? If not, then you will probably, okay, so according to this diagram, is there a lack of awareness of the problem? If there is a lack of information about the problem, you need to do investigative journalism. You need to expose, you need to spotlight it first. But it can happen that it's a problem that everyone knows about already, and you don't need to talk about it for the millionth time again. So this is where you might be on a track to solutions journalism, but still not there, because maybe we even know what to do about the problem. If we do, because the answer is actually there, and you just need to pressure the power to do it, but you don't need any new ideas there, then it's simply, there is not so much to do about it. And I'm always saying there are two reasons why change is not happening in the world. The first is there is no political will or a goodwill to do it, right? And then you need to keep pressuring. Or, and this is where you can make a big difference as a journalist, maybe those in power, the mayor, the officer in the office, doesn't simply know what to do about it, because they don't have the ideas, they don't have the intention, and you can bring it to the public debate. You can highlight it, you can actually investigate it for them, and then present it and show, okay, so we know we have a problem, and this is what can be done about it. And you open the whole public debate, and you remove the excuses about, yes, this is a problem, but there is nothing to do about it. We would like to, but there is nothing we can do. Oh, really? Because maybe there are things to be done. And this is where you introduce solutions journalism, or where solutions journalism is actually the thing you need. So if you arrive there, that about your problem, you need to actually investigate on responses. We are going to the most funny part, and that's you start looking for the candidates. So over to Jeremy, because the key question is,
yes, who's doing it better? Always have this at the top of your list. We were going to ask you, I think, to all let us know where you would be asking in your own countries, but I think we're running a bit out of time, and we gave you a list the last time, which you'll find in the presentation. So Lucy, maybe you can just fast forward to that, because I think we probably have to speed things up. So
yes, definitely.
yeah, so it's the next one, I think.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. You mean this?
Yeah.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to skip this. I think if we can just show the next slide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So again, just a reminder here, you'll have to think of which of these are really appropriate to your own societies, who you trust. But as we said, some really good places to start are think tanks, academic experts, people who are doing innovation, Different startup centers might be a good place. Kind of anywhere you can find people that are innovative, that are knowledgeable about the field. As I said when we spoke last week, generally you can find an expert on anything in a university, often at a think tank. Those are good people just to approach. And maybe you've never even heard of the solution, but just to ask them, okay, you're an expert on the problem. Is there anyone who's come up with something that's been showing progress in terms of a solution? And that's a really good starting point. And then again, as we talked about last week, you might just look around and see, is there anyone in your local neighborhood? Is there anyone in a school or a hospital doing something which is showing some kind of promising solution to a problem? And again, keep in mind, it might just be in the early stages. You might not have data for 5 years or 10 years, but you're looking for something which seems to be working, seems to be hopeful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So maybe quickly going to where you are actually looking for the story. So Jeremy, do you want to go quickly through this?
Yeah, sure. This is, I think, a really great graphical illustration of what we're talking about. So this is some data that shows in the different counties of the state of Pennsylvania, how many people who were in prison get out into normal society, but end up going back to prison. In America, we call this probation. So people are on probation when they get out of prison, and for usually a specific period of time. If they commit a crime while they're on probation, they get sent back to prison. So this shows the data here for how many people ended up going back to prison in each county. So you can see the average there, or you can see it with it's a little small.
The red line is
yeah, the red line. So our question, I guess, is for all of you is, when you look at this kind of data, where do you think an investigative journalist would look, and where would a solutions journalist look?
Yeah.
So, yeah, why don't you go ahead, Lucy?
Good. So investigative journalism focuses on the wrongdoing, right? So you would go probably to the worst performing jail or county and looking what's wrong there, what's happening there. And it's okay. And it's actually how traditionally journalism works, looking for the bad cases. That's important because you identify what's not working. While you are not actually, this doesn't really help the other counties. Solutions journalism looks for the story at the very other side. It looks for the best performing county and asking what are they doing differently, and also the other 25 or how many can actually take a lesson from them, right? They can also improve, and you are looking for what are they doing differently that makes them actually doing better. This doesn't need to be always the case. You need to also check what is the data showing. Yeah, maybe it's just a coincidence. Then you go maybe to the second lowest one. Yeah, you are looking for a model, not for a chance story. But this is what we are calling positive deviant. We are looking for someone that's out of that's positive, that's simply doing it better. There is actually kind of this is how you are asking the question: who has the lowest carbon emission per person, which country, who has lowest water contamination rate, highest green energy production, maybe lowest rate of lung cancer. This would be for air pollution story, for instance. Here is an example of cesarean section. If so, not the if you are not having the natural birth, but the cut operation, basically, which is considered not to be the optimal way. And there are two hospitals from the same company. It's an US example, but shows it very well, where they have like average number of the cesarean births that are actually quite high. Yeah, they are 49%, and the average is 34. The other one is having 18, and the average is 34. So I guess you already sense now that solutions journalists would look for the story here and checking what's behind this 18%. And you are still not sure whether you have a story by then, because you need to find out what does this number mean. Maybe they are great and they are having great, policies in place and rules in place, that they are actually working very well with the expecting women, and they reduce the number of the cesarean births. But also maybe it's just the hospital that takes only the easy cases, so called, and the other one that has above average number of the cesarean sections is because they have more specialized equipment, or they are simply specializing on this. So it doesn't really mean that automatically the one with the lowest rate is performing best. This is what you need to investigate first. And this is only telling you whether you have or don't have a story. Good. So we will jump over those slides, but you can read them afterwards because we will share them with you. This is different questions you can ask, or different parameters you can actually compare the data to. And we will also need to skip this quiz, but you can still do it at home, because there is like the question checking whether you have a story or not. So I will quickly jump over this, and I'm sorry about that. So there are 4 questions and 4 answers. And maybe we would just really recap the key questions. Is who is doing it better? How does the response work? Where does the idea come from? Ask for the origin of the idea, because then you can deepen your story. Was it replicated elsewhere? So does it really work maybe somewhere else? Does it have an effect? What does research say? What do critics say? You need to have a critical point of view to be part of your story. How do you measure the success? How do you know what numbers do tell you? And then what is actually, how do we know it is or it's not working? Basically, the solution journalism is about the traditional 5 journalistic questions about who, what, when, where, why, and the crucial one is the how. And I think we already repeated it many times. Solution story is a how done it story, so that you know what is being done in Belarus about domestic violence, and how you could actually, could you take away from it. Remember, you are not looking for the ultimate solution. You are not looking for the perfect solution. There is nothing like that in the world. You are looking for a response that seems to be working based on the available evidence. So you know you can prove it's working, at least by now. Also remember, solution is a process. So you are reporting about an existing situation right now, but it's worth checking back with maybe a few more months about the solution and whether it goes the way it was supposed to. Good. Quickly about the story pitch. This is where we are actually going to our micro grant, and about what we would also expect you to share with us for information to know whether your story solution's ready or not. But this is also something you should do maybe for your editor, or when you are pitching a story as a freelancer. So maybe Jeremy, over to you, and can we explain more about how to pitch?
Yeah, well, I'll take this really quickly, and then maybe we could. I see we're running out of time, so we could also take some questions from you to be sure we have time to answer those. Yeah, I think probably a lot of you are experienced journalists, and you know what you're doing in terms of pitching a story. As I said last week, one of the big problems we have when people pitch stories for solutions is that they haven't really looked enough into the solution. They tell us all about the problem, but not enough about the specific solution to that problem. So you have here just normal questions. We've been talking about these. How does the solution work? What's its impact? Can it be replicated anywhere else? And what are the limitations? So that's really what we're looking for, that you do your homework and that you've really explored not every single little detail, because that's going to come out once you start interviewing, obviously, but at least to give us some kind of broad idea of what the solution is, why it's working, how it's working, and so on. So, Lucy, maybe we should open up to questions at this point, and
Yeah,
we have plenty to talk about. We could talk for hours about this topic, but we want to give all of you a chance to ask questions and spark a discussion.
yes,
So,
and there are already questions coming in. So I might start with Christina. What happens if people don't want to cooperate? If they don't want to talk to you as a journalist, if I get it correctly, right, Christina? So what happens? What happens? Jeremy, what happens if people don't want to talk to you?
yeah, well, you just have to keep asking, obviously. It depends on the specific topic. And I should point out, we're talking so much about data, and we're very familiar with this, how difficult it can be to get data. We've been working in Central and Eastern Europe for over 20 years. So we know country by country, you might have a lot of difficulty getting information from the local authorities, from the national authorities, and so on. So we know that can be an obstacle, but you can see even in Belarus, Hannah was able to put together a really great story. She's been doing that in the past. But it's a good question. If people don't want to talk to you, then you have to really figure out if there are other ways to do the story. Are there other ways to track the impact? I would assume if you're talking about a solutions that's working, that there are people that are proud that it is working and that they would want to talk with you. But again, it could be a very sensitive topic. Maybe people will be, even a question of something like domestic violence. If there's a home that is housing people, victims of domestic violence, it's maybe a place that is trying to keep a low profile. Those people might not want to talk to you, and you'd have to decide, do I still want to write about the story? Is it so important that I want to bring it to public attention, or would I be putting people to risk? So hard to really answer that unless it's a case-by-case basis.
I will maybe add here, and it's actually very good question. It goes also back to the watchdog and guide dog, right? Especially if you are asking authorities, traditionally or typically, if there is a phone ringing at the ministry or a public office, whatever, and there is journalists on the other side of the line, that means the only thing, problem arising, right? So they automatically start, raising all their defending mechanisms, like, because if you as a journalist call them, then probably next day there will be a story about how they are not doing their job well or whatever. So they will start to protect themselves with a press officer or whatever, quoting paragraphs, like quoting laws or whatever, but not providing you with any information. The experience tells us that it's really good to explain the point of your story, and to explain them as the very first thing, that maybe for this time you are not about to catch them not to do something or doing it badly or what, but you want to invite them to be part of, because their office might be an important part of the solution, to invite them to be part of the solution, to actively look for a solution, and explaining what is the point of your story, not to bite as the watchdog, but guide as the guide dog. It sometimes helps because then the officers are not so scared of you, but it doesn't mean that you are making a alliance forever, right? Next time you can be again the biting dog. So you need to be clear about like your relationship. And of course, you can ask also the questions in Serbian or Bosnian, as Jelena pointed out. How much time do we have to write a story if we get chance to write it with your help? Let's be honest, solutions journalism is investigative journalism. Only you are investigating on what's working, not on what's not working. So we don't expect you to write a story within a week. But also it should have some limitations. So usually we aim for, and it depends on the complexity of your story, we aim for a story within 2, maximum 3 months, but then it should be really ready to publish by then. And together with the micro grant, there is also mentoring we offer. So we guide you through the production process. We bother you with the 4 qualities. We bother you with, like, is this really still solutions oriented, or do you cry too much about the problem in your text? Do you need to spend another paragraph about the problem to help people understand the solution or not? So this is our role. But like, yeah, 2 months ideally. It depends how complex and how hard it is to talk to your sources, for instance. If you have
Yeah.
a specific topic like a suicide, for instance, it might be more complicated.
I would just add that we don't want to scare everyone, and maybe you don't have the time to spend 2 or 3 months on a story.
Yeah.
Again, we will tell you this at the very end, but there is a solutions journalism tracker, and you can see shorter stories that are there that are considered solution stories. And even today, Lucy and I read a story that was in the Czech media about a program for young adults who are leaving orphanages and how to integrate them into mainstream society. And it's a program that's been set up in Brno, the second largest city in the Czech Republic, and it's a pretty simple story. It's a rooming or housing complex where kids or young adults who are leaving orphanages are then rooming with people that have grown up in families. Those are their roommates, and it benefits both the people who are leaving the orphanages who don't have much experience with living in mainstream society, and also benefits the people in mainstream society who are meeting people they would have never met before. The story had a couple of interviews. It had some pretty good data, a little weak on the limitations, but a nice story that probably could have been done in a week. So just to keep that in mind, if things go well and you uncover the 4 qualities pretty early, it doesn't have to take 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, it also depends about how much do you already know about the solution. How much do you need to still investigate, or whether this is pretty clear and you can already start writing the story. There are also some questions in Serbian and Bosnian. Maybe Elena or Anita, could you help us?
Yeah, I see. There's one here. If you receive a grant for one story and see it does not work, can we change the subject? Yes. It could happen that once you dig deeply, you see that somehow the data was not presented in a way that would be convincing that this solution is really working. Maybe you only figured out the details and if it was going to be adaptable to other countries once you started doing your reporting. So that can happen. It has happened, and as long as you keep us informed, we'd be happy to work with you on adjusting your story.
Yes. And also, that's why we are so curious about what do you already know about the solution. That's why we want to already know at least basics of your 4 qualities, so that you at least have basic knowledge. But it can always happen, of course. But we are trying to prevent it and to make you already know enough about it.
We had another question. What if you have more than one story? I assume that means to pitch us more than one story, which is also perfectly fine.
Yes.
You can apply with more than one idea. And then there's another question. What if best practice is not the best for our case? Can we propose a solution which is best for our situation? Again, the idea is not you proposing your own solution, but looking at a solution that's working somewhere else. But you can definitely start and with the idea that this is a best practice somewhere else. It could potentially work in our society, but these are the limitations. So, Lucy, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, exactly. And also, maybe this brings you back to why did you pick then this story? Because the motivation why you want to write the story for your audience in your magazine, in your newspaper, on your TV is, I hope, to bring some useful content to your readers, right? So if you have maybe several case studies about domestic violence, take the one that's closest to you, that could be like maybe easily replicated or could make a difference in your public debate. Maybe an example from Belarus is actually more useful than an example from Finland, because Finland is so different and it would be too alien. But maybe an example from Bulgaria would actually make a difference. And that's what you aim with the solution story, to move, to push the public debate somewhere, to unlock it, right, or unblock it. Any other questions? How about the native language ones, or like Serbian, Bosnian ones? Ah, you translated them. Wonderful. Anyone still having a question?
Okay, it seems not. So maybe we can wrap up just with the final couple slides we have here. We're going to send the whole presentation, which will have some additional stuff that we didn't have a chance to cover, but there are a couple of resources we again wanted to stress. And yeah, you'll see some slides there about, again, how you can use specific individuals to make your stories more interesting, but without falling into this trap of what we talked about last week of hero worship and having it be too much a profile of one person and not talking about the systemic solution. But you'll see this here. I think it will be pretty clear to you just to read this over.
Maybe I will just stress how to avoid advocacy. We were talking about it in the previous session. Solution journalism can easily turn into advocacy, no question about it. It's up to you to keep the standard high, to have the journalistic hat on your head, and not to slip into like pushing, promoting, and suggesting. Make your audience to make a decision and conclusion. Don't decide for them, and don't overclaim. Don't use the judging words like inspiring, wonderful, super. Be an observer and not a promoter. You are not a PR agent of the solution. I will skip this part. It's not that crucial. It's only showing that it can be different styles. It can be last part of an investigative story. It can be the investigation itself. It can be an instructive failure. The story about Italy, and sorry, I have another slide here, but the story about Italy and what's the lessons from Italy about coronavirus is a wonderful example of instructive failure. We can learn from Italy, right? Comparable. And sometimes it can be a quick story if everyone knows what's the problem. It can be about how a location transformed. We had a very nice story about life after coal mining that was for Slovakia, and they looked in Belgium and they went and visited communities that stopped mining and how it actually transformed the whole area, so that the Slovakian region that is now closing mines can take a lesson learned. It can be about new ideas, but then you have to be really sure that you know from where the idea comes and at least see some evidence of impact. And I will only stress quickly the toolkit. Again, it's a must-read. It's really useful tool. Now we have it in Serbian, in Bosnian, and also in Albanian. There is a Polish, Russian, Hungarian version, whatever you prefer. Czech one, and English. And Solution Story Tracker, that's a gold mine of stories that have been read, have been approved as solution stories by people from Solution Journalism Network. And for your research to check what is being actually done about the particular problem and who has written about it already. That's really important source for you. This is a story I wanted to share with you, and I shared it in my email. It's a really great example that solutions-oriented stories don't need to be boring. This one wouldn't qualify as solutions journalism fully because of the very simple reason it doesn't really address the limitations of the housing first approach in Seattle in Salt Lake City. But it's so much fun. Please watch it. If there is one video to watch and have fun, then this is the one. If they included limitations, that would be a perfect solution story. Good. So this is just to wrap up, and that would be it for today.
Yes, thanks for everyone to stay here to the very end. And also, just a reminder, we really appreciate that you're listening to us in English, but you do not have to write your stories in English. You can write them in whatever language you're comfortable with, and we will also have them translated and so on. And we'd be happy also to publish some of them in English on our website, but really feel comfortable about writing them in your own languages, and also asking our local partners any questions you have, because we know it can be quite difficult listening for an hour and a half in English too. So we appreciate that you were here, and we look forward to working with you and hope that you will start to adopt this in your normal routines, not hopefully just for one story, but also in your editorial offices, and just trying to convince your colleagues that this offers a much more complete view of journalism than always writing about the problems, which is a lot easier to do, but really not the complete story out there. So thanks again. Thanks to Lucy. Thank you to the rest of the team. Lucy, did you want to add anything more?
Yeah, if you have any questions about the microgrant and mentoring program, feel free to reach out to Jelena or Anita or to us. The deadline is the 24th of May. So we hope by now you have enough information to know what we expect from you and what kind of input we need to make a decision. There will be a jury checking your submissions. And then we will let you know both whether you got it or unfortunately not, because there is only limited number of people we can really support in this way. But also, if you had any question about another story or whatever, feel free to reach out to us. We are happy to help, and hopefully we will have so many wonderful pitches that it will be hard for us to choose. That's our wish for now.
All right. So thank you to Jelena and Anita for also handling the chat. And yes, that's it. Have a good rest of the day, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.